so your grandma had the spiritual side, she had the business side, and somehow she was able to separate those energies. That reminded me of hearing that you should have separate rooms in your house for separate things, that those rooms, whatever you're doing in them, carry certain energy. Like if you have an apartment and it's smaller, it's like there were times where I had my workstation, like what I'm on right now, in the bedroom. So it's like I would do work in the bedroom, I would do recording in the bedroom, and that's also where I sleep. And I was told that the energy you have for the hustle and the work is in the same room as where you're supposed to be sleeping, and that can actually affect the sleep. I don't know if you've heard.
Yeah, I have definitely heard of that. And I mean, I also have spoken to a feng shui master, Paul Eng, actually, in here in Toronto, in Thornhill. So I agree with that, because there you also associate what you do and the energy you bring in energy. I feel that way. So when you're in this creative mode and you're bringing that energy in, and then you're in your room and trying to sleep, sometimes you're overstimulated. So in that room, so I like to have a space where I do meditate and do my readings. And I tried it in my room and a few times, and I was like, oh, it's too much energy there for that. And I was getting downloads and and so much information coming in that I couldn't sleep. So I'm like, okay, this is not the space to do that. So I do agree with that. I think you should definitely separate the energy. And sometimes you can't avoid it. Like if you really can't avoid it, maybe just stay in that mindset or mind frame and like get yourself out of that mind frame of whatever other activity you're doing, especially for sleep. I really honor my sleep. For me, that's my restorative time. So I can't really, look at screens before I sleep. I really have to.
You
and I have
shut
to
down the
yeah,
technology like 30 minutes or an
yeah,
hour before sleep, or?
yes. And sometimes I don't. And, obviously one of my
Those
things that I'm
darn
working on.
Facebook
Yeah,
notifications, they'll
I
get you.
know, I know.
Doesn't matter
It's true.
how enlightened
I
you
can't,
are. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, one of my addictions, because everyone has addictions, and it's just if they're healthier, and I'm trying to make much healthier addictions, but one of them is scrolling through the social media. And I'm starting to be just more aware of it and limiting the times that I do it. So I'll be like half an hour for the morning, maybe half an hour in the middle of the day and at night. But yeah, I really try to say I'm not bringing my phone into my room at all. But then my husband has his phone right beside, but that's his energy and what he does.
How
But
dare
at least,
he?
how dare he? But at least I'm not doing it, and I'm in this mind frame, and I'm doing these like nice deep breaths. And yeah, and I'm not thinking of any words. And that's like the number one thing I tell a lot of my clients. Do not worry and bring all your to-do list and all this stuff before bed, because the number one thing I've learned from Neville Goddard, who's this mystic from the 20s, or I think 30s, he always said, right before you go to bed is the time where you're going into a different brain wavelength, right? So you're going from the waking state, which is beta, right? And then you're going into alpha, and then you're going into your theta and delta. And when you're in this wavelength and you're just worried, you're almost solidifying your problems and like the to-dos, and like and most people do like their worst case scenario stuff right before they go to bed. I'm like, stop doing that. That's the
Yeah, you're
number one
setting
thing I
yourself
said.
up for a night of horrible dreams and
and
nightmares.
it's
Yeah.
and it's not only that, because according to Neville Goddard, what you think of at that sweet spot is what you'll manifest. So if you do nothing at all other than just sleep before you go to bed in that space, visualizing yourself with the feeling of of your creation. So you're in your imagination and you're imagining this beautiful future event that you want to manifest to yourself. You will create it. And I've practiced that. This is Neville Goddard stuff, and anyways, I love that. And so I do tell my clients to kind of check him out if they want to, but at the very least, do not have worries before you go to bed.
And
Yeah,
that's the point where you're starting to shift between your conscious and your subconscious mind, right? That's what I
exactly.
hear. So it's the subconscious mind is however thousands of times more powerful than the conscious mind. And that if you can have your list of goals or dreams or the perfect life, if you can before bed and when you wake up, those are the two times where you're
Yes,
shifting between subconscious and conscious, that you're putting a deeper imprint, and you're changing your habits and your beliefs at a deeper level.
100%. That agreed. And you can test it out. I always, because there is an activity or an exercise that Neville Goddard would do, and it was like climbing a ladder. And you can YouTube all this; you'll see it on there. But I did the baseball thing, where I went with my husband because I wanted him to have buy-in, because I was trying to just tell him, don't go to bed with your worries, anyway. So we did the baseball thing, which is you just visualize a baseball, and you're holding it before you go to bed in your mind's eye. And how does it smell? And you want to engage all your senses, and especially your feeling. But I didn't even do this the quote unquote proper way. I was just like telling my husband in the middle of the day, just close your eyes. I tried to get him into a relaxed state. And it's almost like a meditation or hypnosis. So I tried to get him in those nice wavelengths, the slower wavelengths. So at least, I mean, we were in at least alpha, because if you close your eyes, you tend to engage that state. Anyways, and I said, just hold the baseball, throw it to me, smell it. And I engaged all the senses. And literally we did this once. And I said, I wanted to see the turnaround of it. It literally was 6 weeks on the calendar. I wrote it down just because I wasn't going to do it the effective way, which was every night doing this. So we did it once, and then we went for a walk in the park, and I picked up a baseball and I threw it to him. I'm like, there's the baseball. Like, and I know people are going to be like, well, you were probably going to see a baseball, but the stuff that I see on YouTube about Neville Goddard is amazing, because they're like, oh, the baseball was in my bag. I don't even know how it got there. I did this 3 days ago, and I only worked on it 3 days, and this showed up. And the reason they do things that, you don't have a big preconceived notion about baseball. Like, you don't have this belief system around baseball. That's why, or ladders, he'll do a ladder walk thing, walking up the ladder, because you don't have like, I'm not good enough for a baseball. I'm not good enough to, how am I going to get this? But because sometimes if you want the buy-in, people right away, if you said you want to manifest money, $1,000 or whatever, a million, they're like,
They have
that's impossible.
negative connotations, or
Right. Or they'll just say that's impossible. That's impossible. There's no way. Or they have this relationship with money. It can't come that easy. And some of his activities are just really seeing it, counting it. There's so many people on YouTube talking about this. So I like that. And I tell my clients a little bit about that. But we digressed about that. But I just find like manifestation is also something I work with my clients. So yes, as I'm doing readings, I want them to know that they are ultimately responsible for co-creating their life. They are ultimate creators, as we all are. And we're creating our own, we're a microcosm of the macrocosm of the universe. And in our little universes, we're creating our own lives. So yeah. Sorry, I think I've digressed. So you'll bring me back.
No, we're following along. I'm enjoying the ride. So I did a similar exercise, but instead of a baseball, it was a lemon, that you're eating a lemon. So I believe this is Dr. Joe Dispenza, who you're a big fan of. So he was trying to show you how powerful thought is, and how, it's intangible. You can't put your finger on a thought, but that there can be physical manifestations from that. And so he has you thinking about a lemon, like smelling it, cutting it, and then taking it. And he goes, did you notice you're salivating? And you realize your mouth is just like filled with saliva. And even though that lemon isn't real, the thought of this not real thing produce the same effect of having an actual lemon in your mouth, and you're like, holy shit.
Absolutely. I think that's the power of the brain. The brain is like, there's people are saying like that we're just creating this, it's almost like a holographic nature, and you're almost producing from your brain your reality. So, I mean, that's getting deep into, this holographic nature, unified field theory. And I don't know if you've heard of Nassim Haramein. And these are like quantum physicists that almost, anyways, the point is, I feel like you can create in your brain the experience you want before it even manifests into your reality. So why not create the most positive, beautiful experience? Mind you, you do learn a lot from the negative experiences. So you do have the balance of both. And we talked about that. Like people, when they see, for example, a tower moment in the tarot, and I look at it and I'm like, great, the tower moment is everything kind of shifting. Your whole base gets just twisted upside down. So for people, that tower moment is a shock. It could be a divorce, it could be losing a job, but basically you're off balance. And I like the tower moment because then you get to reinvent yourself. So COVID could be a huge tower moment for a lot of people, right? So and
Yeah,
you got to
rock bottom is a solid foundation to build a life upon.
yeah,
That's a quote that I've heard that I like.
I love that. Actually love that. I'll use that. But that's exactly it. So anyways, the point was we're getting back to just what the brain is capable of. And I really, for me, the one of my, and I'm gonna like fast forward to one of the times where I call it like receiving information from deep meditation. And one of the biggest things that I received in one of these deep meditations I was in was like a model of the brain. It was like spinning in front of my mind. And then I was shown the amygdala. And then I was like given scents to smell. So it was just an interesting understanding of what's happening to me specifically. Like my biggest subject is myself. So I always try to go in and try to understand, like, what am I experiencing? Like, how am I co-creating with in my senses my reality? So anyways, that made me dive deeper into understanding the brain, and I really enjoy psychoneuroimmunology. So and so that's when I discovered Bruce Lipton, the biology of belief, how you really are with your own belief system creating a reality. Joe Dispenza and especially Greg Braden, The Divine Matrix. That's a really good book about how you, and they've done studies, about you as being the subject are the direct participant of your reality. Like you're changing your reality by observing it. So the observer actually changes the experiment. It's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
go ahead.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, the observer changing the experiment. You see that in science all the time. Like I'm no expert, but it's something about like atoms or energy that they don't exist until there's an observer. Like there's nothing
Right.
there, and then once there's an observer, they show up, and it's okay. And then also the experiments with plants, where it's like some plants are given love, like words of affirmation and kindness, and some plants are given like hatred and words, nasty words. And the nasty word plants just give up their will to live, and they die, and the other ones flourish. And it's like, what is that? There's this energy that we just can't see.
That's amazing. And that reminds me a lot of Emoto's experiments, the Japanese scientist who worked with water. So he has experiments where like he'll eat the same thing. He'll take a petri dish of water and saying negative words or negative energy and then loving words, and then freeze the water. And then you see these beautiful crystals of the water, and the structure of the water changes. And then into this beautiful patterning, and then the one like received the negative energy receives this there's no structure to it. It looks broken, dull, or whatever you want, however you want to describe it. And that just gives a testament to we're not, or however percent water we are. I always get that wrong,
A
but
lot. I don't know, 80% or something. We're
yeah,
just
80%.
gonna make it official. 80%.
What makes it? Okay, we're 80% water,
Yeah.
And imagine when you give that energy. So that's why I love energy work, because the science now is corroborating with the what we know intuitively. Like you're finally there's scientists now who are interested in energy, right? Because there was no way of validating this or studying or using any sort of tools to measure, like, and how do you measure, right? Like energy in someone, or giving Reiki to someone, like how does that show up? And usually it was anecdotal, how they felt, right?
Yeah.
But science really wants hard evidence. So I know there's like a Center of Noetic Sciences that works with people of who have like telepathic abilities and this and that. So there are scientists trying to do this research. But anyways, the water, the structure of water, I I started doing that. So like for example, I have water here and I'll bless water now before I drink it. I'll say thank you and whatever I need to say and that's personal to everyone. And these are kind of tidbits of information that I give my clients because as I learn, I'd love to teach others of what I'm learning and how it feels. And to me, so it's beneficial. There's a great, you can just YouTube a documentary on water and the structure of water, and Emoto's experiments is a really good one. And it just you can heal. I think water is healing. I think anything you direct an energy and intent with healing and love can change the structure of it. So of even people. So that's why I really do feel that this kind of energy healing and intent can really change people. It really does. Because I felt it as a, um, you know, as receiving end of it is of going to practitioners myself and receiving energy healing. And now that I practice it, I can hear it from my clients.